Welcome to Get Tech, where we explore some different kind of fruit and pie today. We're going to be talking about the Adafruits PyPortal. I'm Elizabeth, and this is Get Tech. Have you ever heard about the Adafruits PyPortal? If not, good, because we're going to give you a rundown on it today. But if you have heard of it, also good, because we're going to talk about all the projects that you can do with this little IoT device. Before we deep dive into this, we'd like you to like this video and subscribe to our channel so we can continue to give you this regularly scheduled content. The PiPortal is Adafruits' newest IoT device that's powered by CircuitPython. I like the name PiPortal because obviously it's short for Python portal, but I could see how you could get this confused and think that it might have something to do with Raspberry Pi, and you'd be very wrong. Let's do a tour of the board to see what we're working with. First, let's start with the main processor, the Atmel ATS-AMD51J20 Cortex-M4. It has 1 megabyte of flash and 256 kilobytes of RAM. Plus, there's also 8 megabytes of QSPI flash for images, animations, sounds. The cool thing about this processor is that it has native USB, which means when you plug this into your computer, you can just drag and drop files onto the PiPortal. And you will see here, that right there is the Atmel processor. The next thing we'll talk about is the Expressive ESP32 Wi-Fi coprocessor that has TSL SSL support built in. This help gives us communication security. You'll see that big shiny gray piece right there. The ESP32 is a successor to the 8266. It has Bluetooth, faster Wi-Fi, more GPIO, and built-in sensors. It's slightly more expensive than the 8266, but it provides a lot more features and it's more powerful. With the 8266, if you're using it for Wi-Fi, you generally need another processor to actually run different functions. But if you have the ESP32, it can do it all. Wi-Fi, processing data, digital I/O, anything. Now don't get me wrong, the ESP32 isn't a replacement for the ESP8266, it just depends on what type of project and what you're trying to do. The nice thing about the PiPortal is that it comes with a connected display. It's 3.2 inches and has resistive touchscreen. On the back here, you'll see the connector that comes pre-assembled, so no assembly required on your part. The PiPortal comes with a few sensors built in. The first one is the ADT7410 Analog Devices Temperature Sensor that you see right here. It's I2C connected. The next sensor is an ambient light sensor that faces outwards towards the front. This is an analog input. With both sensors, you can use Arduino or the CircuitPython libraries to read them. On the side here, you'll see there's a slot for a micro SD card. You can use this for extra memory when you're doing large projects. Here at the bottom is a speaker and speaker connector. The connector is a Molex Pico blade, so you can connect a speaker from Adafruit. There's actually a Class D amplifier on this speaker, so it's not so dainty, it actually can get pretty loud. Some of the Adafruit tutorials, like the YouTube tutorial or the GitHub trackers, have a coin noise every time you get a new follower or a new stat, and it's actually loud enough that it could be heard around the office when I had those projects running. Now let's talk about connectors. Here on the side, you'll see a couple different ones. This middle connector right here is a 4-pin JSC I2C connector that's Stemma and Grove compatible. The other two, here and here, are 3-pin JST digital or analog connectors. They can be used for sensors or NeoPixels or analog inputs or digital I/O. At the top of the board, you see a status NeoPixel and your reset button. So once your code successfully loads, the status NeoPixel will turn green and then will change colors depending on what's going on. So yellow means fetching data, blue means got data, red means no Wi-Fi, blue means Wi-Fi, cayenne means file opening. For the reset button, 1 click restarts the firmware and 2 clicks will enter bootloader mode. And last but not least is the micro USB port here. This actually has power and data. So when I connect it to my computer, it powers a board and lets me communicate with it, which is different than you would see on single board computers like a Raspberry Pi. Now that we've done a tour of the board, let's talk about how it actually works. I'm going to assemble my stand that I have for my PiPortal so I can have it sitting while I talk about the code that I'm going to run on it. Ta-da! Weather data. Like I said earlier, the cool thing about the PiPortal is that the micro USB port, when you plug it into your computer, allows you to power it and allows for data transmission. So when you plug it into your computer, it shows up like a USB. So you just drag and drop the files on there, like you can see in this screenshot video here. Now, to get started with the PiPortal, what you have to do is download the latest firmware and drop that onto the PiPortal. This is different than what you would do with a Raspberry Pi that has an operating system like Raspbian. Whereas with the PiPortal, what you're doing is updating the firmware. The PiPortal uses CircuitPython. CircuitPython is a programming language based on Python. It has hardware support built in, which makes it easier to write in code. There's no pre-compiling to get the code to work. You can use any code editor to edit the code on your PiPortal. You can use Visual Studio Code, so once you edit and save, it does a soft reboot and starts running again. Or you can use the Mu editor, which Adafruit recommends, which actually allows you to have a serial monitor so you can see everything that's happening while it's running. This screenshot here shows you an example of that with the weather station running. So the cool thing about the PiPortal is that it can actually interact with APIs. Adafruit has a bunch of tutorials on how to interact with YouTube, Twitter, GitHub, Discord, and all of their APIs so you can actually get information about your followers, your stats, your likes, and actually display that on the PiPortal. You send a request to the API, you get a JSON returned, you parse the JSON for the data you want, and display the values with followers, viewers, subscribers. The same thing goes for interacting with APIs for weather, stocks, and news. How you do this is you import PiPortal from Adafruit PyPortal library file. This allows you to interact with the JSON and navigate it, and display the data on your PiPortal hardware. Your first inputs are the API URL, the headers, and the JSON path, where the data you want is. The next inputs initiate the display and allow you to set the background color, the text position, the font, the text color. Makes it easy to interact with the API and display the data on your PiPortal. A project that I implemented was using the Dark Sky API, which if you've seen our tutorial before, you've seen that we've done this. But what we're doing here is we're actually getting the data from the Dark Sky API, displaying it on the PiPortal, and then sending that data to initial state to create a dashboard as well. So what we're using is the ESP32 request function, and we're using a post method to send that data to initial state, and within the function, we're putting the URL, the headers, and the JSON payload data. I did find that there was limitations to how much data I could parse and send, because when I would try to do this, I would get lots of errors on the PiPortal about running out of memory or different functions going awry. So what I found was that I could do 4 data points, parse that data, and send it to initial state using the PiPortal. There's a link in the description of this video so that you can make your own Dark Sky API PiPortal and send that data to initial state. The possibilities are endless with using the PiPortal to interact with your favorite APIs. In some of our previous videos, like the Dark Sky API or the Air Visual API, we showed you that APIs aren't scary and easy to use, and you can use any of those examples to display data on your PiPortal and send it to initial state. If you enjoyed this episode, please like the video, subscribe to our channel, and share this with your friends. Comment below about your thoughts on the Adafruit PyPortal and what projects you'd like to see us talk about next. Until next time, stay fresh, like fruit. Adafruit.